All right, let's jump into the NBA offseason here in 2020. And we got a month left till the 2021 NBA season. We want to cover pretty much the transactions of free agency, trades, and other moves that have been made for general managers of each franchise. So the winners and losers of free agency, let alone of what's been going on so far. So number one, we kind of want to cover is the Atlanta Hawks. Let's just give a round of applause for Atlanta, man. They made some great moves for Trae Young. Trae Young's been in the league for 2 seasons. He's got to put the offense all on his back, and that's been the case. And he's really held management up to their toes to live up for them to make the playoffs, and they made the right moves. Number one, they did bring in Danilo Gallinari. They brought in Rajon Rondo, Chris Dunn, Solomon Hill, and Bogdan Bogdanovic. Now that Bogdan Bogdanovic was one of the most important moves for the Atlanta Hawks because he was about to go to Milwaukee, allegedly. But for them to actually make that trade not go down, he was an unrestricted free agent. Or my bad, he was a restricted free agent, and the Kings didn't match the offer. That brings in a starting lineup of Trae Young, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Danilo Gallinari. Then you're going to have Collins at the 4, and at the 5 you're going to have Clint Capella. And with Gallinari, he can play the 3 or 4. Let's see how the roster works out, but you pretty much have been given more of 40 points from Bojan and Danilo Gallinari that can give you on a nightly basis together. So those are huge moves. The Atlanta Hawks are young, they're up and going. They have an amazing offensive team, let alone defensively on their front court. I'm liking them a lot. They're winners definitely of free agency and expect them for sure to be in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. They lost Jeff Teague, DeAndre Membry, Dwayne Dedmon, Vince Carter retired, and a couple other guys as well, but there's way more pros than cons, of course. The Boston Celtics, I would actually say they are losers of free agency and let alone the whole offseason in the NBA. Now, Danny Ainge, I have no idea what's been going on. Everyone's been stating that he fleeced the Brooklyn Nets back in that trade with Jason Terry, KG, Paul Pierce, etc., etc. Basically, the Boston Celtics, they have all these assets. They have all these draft picks. And every single time Danny Ainge does not trade for Paul George, he doesn't trade for Jimmy Butler, he didn't trade for Anthony Davis. He just holds everyone tight. He values Jaylen Brown, for example, Marcus Smart so highly throughout the years. He wouldn't trade them for a star player. Now, I'll give them credit. They did make a trade. They were the 3rd pick, and they got the 1st, and they drafted, or they made that trade to where they were the 1st, and they traded out, and they got Jason Tatum. Because the Philadelphia 76ers got Markelle Fultz at number 1, then the Lakers got Lonzo Ball, but then you did have the Boston Celtics got Jason Tatum, so that was a huge cornerstone for their franchise. Exciting. But now in this offseason, what are you going to do? They didn't really address any of these needs. Now they do need some more. Their bench is ferocious. It's terrible. It's terrible out there. And I've always stated the Celtics, they need a more formidable bench. There's a bunch of players, you don't even know their names on their bench. They haven't been in the league that long, if anything, and they're not used in the playoffs as much. They really didn't address too much of things. Basically, number one, the Gordon Hayward situation. We knew he was not going to re-sign based on different leaks and rumors and stories. Now, Danny Ainge I have no idea what the heck happened, but he didn't even do a sign and trade to where you would have tamed like a Miles Turner from the Indiana Pacers. That would have been ideal for Gordon Hayward to go to Indiana, Miles Turner to the Celtics, but instead they got around 2 second-round picks in the future. And the Celtics right now, the only pieces you really brought in was Tristan Thompson, Jeff Teague, and then you re-signed Taco Fall. And then you did have some draft picks of Aaron Nesmith, Peyton Pritchard, and Yao Madar. Some guys out there. Boston Celtics, they really needed to address, one of their big mans as well, which I guess they're running with Daniel Tice and Thompson, but I thought they were going to make a move for Steven Adams at the center. That wasn't the case, let alone they didn't even get Miles Turner. And now there's rumors of that they're trying to reportedly try to make trades for Kemba Walker to get out of there. So it's a lot of sketchy situations, man. After you know about the Isaiah Thomas thing, his sister died, they traded him, and he got injured. And now the thing with Kemba Walker, there's not a lot of, good morality, if anything, for the Boston Celtics. So this is a hit internally for their team. They really didn't make those moves to where they can get to the finals, but they're in purgatory right now. So that's on them. They're really going to rely heavily on Jason Tatum next season. The Brooklyn Nets, nothing too much on their part. They just brought in Landry Shamet from the Clippers, You did bring in Jeff Green for free agency. And the Brooklyn Nets, they need to make a couple more moves. I thought they were going to go for Serge Ibaka. He actually went to the LA Clippers. And the Brooklyn Nets still have not made that James Harden trade. Now, I never expected it to go down, but that's kind of a wash for them. Like I said before, I expect the Nets to make the finals. I think they'll make 2 finals appearances in the legacy of Kyrie and Kevin Durant. I don't know if that's going to be for this season, but they're going to win 1 championship together. I know that the case, but I don't think it's going to be this season. The LA Lakers pretty much have that on lock as of right now. Let me not jump the gun, and let me go to the next team. It's going to be the Charlotte Hornets. Big win, LaMelo Ball. He's going to be a future superstar. He's an impact player, and he's a franchise player. And quote me on that, because a lot of people have been overlooking LaMelo Ball, and they don't think too highly of him. The Charlotte Hornets are going to be a fun team to watch. They have a great direction of next season. They're going to be a fun team to watch. They got a bunch of young cats out there. They may make a move to trade Terry Rozier away to the Clippers, so that can bring more, offensive time, the point guard slot for both Devontae Graham and LaMelo Ball. I do love how they have Bridges out there. You do have PJ Washington. They really need to address their center position, but they'll get to it. I love the direction for the Hornets. I expect them in the next 2 to 3 seasons to steadily get into the playoffs, and they're going to make some moves. Basically from them, just the main thing was they got LaMelo Ball, and they brought in Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward, that's going to be a big contract, 4 years, over $100 million, as we all know that. I think it would have been more formidable for a 2-year deal, but in this day and age, the leverage is on the players and the agents, not the teams and franchises and GMs. So I expect Gordon Hayward probably to be on the team for 2 seasons, then they'll trade him off. Hopefully this doesn't end up like a Nicholas Batum situation. The Chicago Bulls. Nothing too much with them. I mean, they got the Patrick Williams at the 4th overall pick. They lost Chris Dunn. I don't know. The Bulls management's terrible. They're bringing a new coach. I can care less on them. The Cleveland Cavaliers. Nothing too much. You re-signed Matthew Dellavedova. You brought in Thon Maker. At the 5th pick, you got Isaac Okoro, which I was watching Colin Sexton's live stream on that, and it's going to be weird with all those guards out there. They need to get rid of Kevin Love. I don't know what they're doing. Cleveland is a mess as usual. The Dallas Mavericks, they had a good draft. You got Josh Green, you got Tyro Terry, and then you got Tyler Bay. They do have size for their team. They're usually around 6'3" and above. But you do have JJ Barea standing like at 5'10" or whatever, 5'9". But besides that, they got length on their team. They made a trade for Josh Richardson. So the team right now, I'm liking the Dallas Mavericks. I expect them to be a top 5 seed in the Western Conference. And basically within that, Luka Doncic may have an MVP season. Denver Nuggets. Actually, I don't like what happened with them, man. They didn't really bring anyone in. They got Zeke Naji and RJ Hampton in the draft. You did lose Jeremy Grant, Mason Plumlee, Torrey Craig, Troy Daniels on your team. And those were 4 formidable, really good pieces. 3 of them especially into the playoffs, 2 to 3 of them. But I don't know, the Denver Nuggets, I think they kind of took a step down when it came to that. So got to keep an eye out on them. The Detroit Pistons, oh boy. You got Killian Hayes at the 7th pick, Isaac Stewart at the 16th. And basically within that, you got DeLon Wright, you got Rodney McCruger. Nothing really to talk about too much. You did bring in Jeremy Grant, Mason Plumlee, Jahlil Okafor, Josh Jackson. So you got a couple of nice younger pieces, but the Pistons are going to be a weird team, man. Nothing in that huge direction. I don't know what they're doing. You do have the Golden State Warriors, so huge loss because of Klay Thompson. You did bring in James Wiseman at the 2nd overall pick. You did make a trade for Kelly Oubre because Klay Thompson was out. And basically within that, that's kind of your whole direction. With Klay out, we expect them to be a first-round exit. Pretty much this is going to be the case. The Houston Rockets, they brought in DeMarcus Cousins. That's pretty much the thing. They traded away Jeff Green. They traded away Robert Covington. Jeff Green's out. Tyson Chandler, DeMar Carroll, Austin Rivers, some of their other bench pieces. So basically right now it's a weird situation. We expected Russ or James Harden to be traded by now. Looks like they're going to run into the next season of James Harden, Russell Westbrook, DeMarcus Cousins, Eric Gordon, and then PJ Tucker and Daniel House. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if they're going to blow it up or not, or they'll run it for one more season. The Indiana Pacers, nothing too much on their side, man. Nothing really to talk about. They did miss out on the Gordon Hayward trade, which I thought was a must for them. And I guess they're going to keep Victor Oladipo. He says he wants to stay, so I think they're just going to be in purgatory. And I'm surprised they didn't trade away Miles Turner. I'm surprised. Let's look at the LA Clippers. Big name was basically Serge Ibaka. Now, this is kind of underrated. I like how they brought in Luke Kennard and Nicholas Batum. They actually can give you some good minutes off the bench. Now, they did lose Montrezl Harrell. They're going to lose Reggie Jackson. You lost Landry Shamet in a trade. So the Clippers right now did not address a point guard, a floor general. They didn't even get Rondo. And you lost Montrezl Harrell. But I do like Serge Ibaka on their team. He's a nice fit. But basically, I don't really care too much for the Clippers. I mean, Tyronn Lue's your coach. Besides from that, man, I think we all expect them to lose in the second round or conference finals, if anything. But it's a shame for their offseason. The LA Lakers, now they're big winners here. You got Montrezl Harrell, stolen next from the franchise right next to you. You got Montrezl Harrell. You brought in Wesley Matthews, Marcus Gasol, re-signed Markieff Morris. You made a trade for Dennis Schroeder, and then you may keep Jordan Bell and Alfonso McKinzie. Those were great young pieces for the Warriors when they won their championships. You did lose JaVale McGee, Danny Green, Rondo, Avery Bradley, J.R. Smith, Dwight Howard, and who else? And Quinn Cook. Now, you did retain also Jared Dudley and Kostas Antetokounmpo. The Lakers, huge trades, huge free agency signings. They're your favorites to come out of the West, let alone win the championship. And I expect them to, pretty much right now win 2021. They retooled in a great way. Props to Rob Pelinka. Memphis Grizzlies, nothing too much on their part, man. They lost Josh Jackson and they traded for Mario Zelna, who can care less. You really got to pair someone with Ja Morant. You need to find a wing. But besides that, the Miami Heat, they're really positioning basically for Giannis Antetokounmpo and the 2021 free agency class. So they've been doing a bunch of one-year deals or a two-year deal with the player opt-out or team opt. You lost Jay Crowder, Derrick Jones Jr., Solomon Hill, a couple other players. You brought in Avery Bradley, Maurice Harkless, so basically just defensive type guys. I really don't expect the Miami Heat to make it out of the East, but they're preparing for 2021 basically. The Bucks, you missed out on the Bojan Bogdanovic trade. Now, you were able to bring in Drew Holiday, part of that trade. You lost Eric Bledsoe. You lost George Hill. You lost Wesley Matthews. You lost Robin Lopez, Kyle Korver, Marvin Williams, Ersan Ilyasova. So right now, you're in a kind of a peculiar situation with Drew Holiday. You brought in DJ Augustine, Nick Stauskas, Bobby Portis. I don't expect too much for the Bucks. I don't think these are the moves to make them go to the finals, so I expect them probably to get bounced in the second round or the conference finals. Let's see how they kind of work out. And a lot of pressure is going to be on Giannis, but Drew Holiday is going to have to play at an all-star level. I expect him most likely to make an all-star appearance, especially in the weak East. The Minnesota Timberwolves, you brought in Anthony Edwards as your first pick. You have Ricky Rubio is going to be a backup. You lost James Johnson with that big contract. You lost Alan Crabb, Evan Turner, who took the Boston Celtics assistant coach. Timberwolves are in a weird spot. I don't expect them to make the playoffs. They are young, but I don't care too much for them with the timeline of Cat. He's been there for like 6 seasons. The New Orleans Pelicans, they got a couple W's. You brought in Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams. I know a lot of people don't like Steven Adams as your starting center with Zion. I think this is going to be great. They really needed a true big who would be able to have veteran experience and who's pretty much in the peak of his career. Steven Adams, around 27 years of age, playoff deep experience with the Thunder. I really like him for the Pelicans. I thought basically you could have gone different routes. You could have developed with Jackson Hayes. You could have gone and trade for like a Miles Turner. You could have stayed young, maybe trying to go for Clint Capella. Different avenues, but I like Steven Adams. I think he's been great for their team. Stan Van Gundy, he's going to make it work. He's more traditional. And Eric Bledsoe playing off ball with Lonzo, I like that ideally more. So basically the Pelicans right now, they're in a great spot. they're going to make the playoffs for sure. Let's look into the New York Knicks. You brought in Obi Toppin as your 8th pick. They were surprised, and I was surprised he got moved down that much. So, I mean, good for them. They're not going to make any big splashes or blockbusters, so they're going to keep things young, even though you brought in Tom Thibodeau, which makes zero sense. He's not a player development coach, but they're going to keep it young. They're going to be gritty. And yeah, let's kind of skip through them. The Thunder, and Sam Presti out here, man, he's got around 18 to 20 first-round picks in the next 6 seasons. So he's playing NBA 2K, my GM, and my league right now. He's basically throwing away cap. He's retaining all these first-round picks. He's got some players that he can just trade them for a first round easily, and he's been doing. So CP3 is out of there, Steven Adams is out of there, and Danilo Gallinari's gone. A couple other players, but he's got a lot of first round picks, man. I like the Thunder's direction, building with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You do have Al Horford's big contract, but they'll know what to do later on. The Orlando Magic, they took some L's. They lost DJ Augustine, Wes Nwandu. They didn't make any big moves, anything. Just got Cole Anthony at the 15th pick. The Philadelphia 76ers, you got Danny Green. First of all, you got Daryl Morey, which is a plus. So he knows how to orchestrate teams that fit well offensively and bring in some stars, quote unquote. Now, he hasn't brought in a true star. He's trying to work on a James Harden trade, but in the meanwhile, he brought back into the identity of the 76ers for shooting. So you got Danny Green, you got Seth Curry not on the team. You brought in a big man with Dwight Howard. You were able to let go of Al Horford's horrendous contract that Elton Brand gave him. You let go of Josh Richardson with another kind of big contract and a bunch of other vets that made zero sense. So Philadelphia is going kind of in the right direction. I expect Daryl Morey to have more work done within the season. The Phoenix Suns, another winner of the offseason. You did get Jalen Smith with the 10th pick. You brought in Chris Paul in a trade, which is going to secure him to make the playoffs. I expect them to be around the 6th and 8th seed. I know a lot of people made a case for them to be maybe 4th or 5th. Let's see when it comes to it. I'm not opposed to it, but I feel more comfortable 6th through 8th. You did bring in Jay Crowder, Etuan Moore, and Dario Saric. And within that, they're around 9-10, quote-unquote, deep. So they're going to be a great team for you guys. Portland Trailblazers, you brought in Robert Covington and Enes Kanter and Derrick Jones Jr. Those were 3 huge pieces. They needed another wing defender and shooter. You need another player who can score off the ball. And let alone you need another defender. So huge pieces for them. Sacramento Kings, you got Hassan Whiteside with the 1-year deal. That's nothing too much. You lost Bojan Bojanovic. The Kings are in a weird spot. I expect them to trade Buddy Hield, and I don't know what direction they're going. I really don't. San Antonio Spurs, they really did nothing. I mean, you got Devin Vassell at the 11th pick. I can really bat an eye too much. The Raptors, I think it was more of an L on them. They lost Serge Ibaka, Marcus Gasol, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson. You got Aaron Baines as a quote-unquote replacement, but I think they're on the downtrend. I think Kyle Lowry I don't know if they're going to trade him next season or the season after that, but they really got to retool to go in a younger direction because I expect them to be like a 6th seed and a first-round exit next season. The Utah Jazz, L's on their part, man. You only brought Derek Favors, but you got to make some moves to help out Donovan Mitchell. You need a scoring wing, and they did nothing. The Wizards, I like how they got Denny Avdija at the 9th pick. I think he's going to be a quote-unquote star in the making. He resembles a lot like a Luka. I'm not going to jump the gun on that, but I really like that pick for them. I really like it a lot. And with the Wizards, you still have Bradley Beal, John Wall. I expect them to try it out for this season. I think during the trading deadline, they're going to have a losing record. I expect them to actually maybe make a trade for both of them. Most likely John Wall on that. But overall, those are kind of my thoughts on each team in the NBA in the offseason, winners and losers. Now, there's around 4 to 5 big winners out there. We addressed a couple losers, but hey, let me know down below what you guys have for your winners and losers. And I'm excited heading into this season.